Yeah, away we go on a Friday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you alongside Hunter Vaughn, alongside Joshie DiMaggio, as we are live at the beautiful facility that is the locally produced, the award-winning, the amazing spirits of Door County Distillery, live in Carlsville this afternoon from Door County Distillery. We've been telling you for weeks, if you're up in Door County this weekend, you got to come check this place out. Come say hello to us as we are live. And I think this is technically the tap room at Door County Distillery, the party room back here with what are these things, Josh, you've been playing with for the last 40 minutes?
It's called a puzzle.
Okay,
you may be familiar with the more traditional version where it's flat and it's cut into pieces. Yeah. But these are just a little puzzle that you can do to enjoy your time here at Door County Distillery. Over there we got the classic triangular pegboard where you jump each one to get them out. And then just a classic old-fashioned, got these two little guys here. They're two pieces of metal, as you can see, and you try and make sure you can get them out. You have not been able to. I just did it in front of you.
Wait a minute. How'd you do that?
So, we've got things to occupy our time here. We're adorned by beautiful Door County Distillery items all around us. I will be hitting the gift shop later to pick up some things and bring back home.
Yep, I'll be
so,
with you.
all in all, this is a lot better than the car ride down here. I'll tell you that much.
We'll get to that in a moment.
But, yeah, I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, it's good to be back in Door County at Door County Distillery. And, yeah, I mean, Joshie mentioned it. If you're watching us on the video stream or you're listening to us on the audio side, we've got a ton of product in front of us. My personal favorite right here, the bourbon whiskey from Door County Distillery. I've been eyeing this up. It's maple-finished bourbon whiskey. It's an 80 proof, so about 40% ABV, but their bourbon is just terrific. So I know I'll be picking up a bottle of that later. Now, I believe I can't say the name technically of this one, but it's Bat Bleep Bourbon from Door County Distillery. That one also caught my eye, so all the bourbons. Can't wait to crack a bottle of this open at 2 o'clock as soon as we're done here. Hunter Vaughn is here as well. Second year in a row he's joined me on the trip to Door County Distillery. Always good to be back here.
Yeah, I love coming up here. It's great. Rode up with some of our Madison teammates. Had a great start to the morning. Made our teammate Chad Hopper, who's considerably older than us. The rest of the team.
Whoa. Didn't need to out him
some
like
Kendrick
that.
Lamar on the way up. So
did he enjoy himself?
Going. I think he did until we started singing Creed. Pablo and I did. Chad looked like he wanted to send us into the ditch. So, having a great time. Already annoying Chad. It's great to be up here, and can't wait to annoy you now for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, we're going to be a good 2 hours. We've got plenty to get into. Jacob Miserowski's big debut with the Milwaukee Brewers in a 6-0 win last night over the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll get to that in a bit. Mark Murphy's final practice as the president and CEO of the Packers yesterday, and his I would call it rather awkward breakdown of the huddle at 1265 Lombardi Avenue yesterday. We will get to Mark Murphy in a bit. We'll do a little mandatory minicamp, stock up, stock down. We do that each and every Monday following Packers games during the season. We will do a post-mandatory minicamp, stock up, stock down later in the show. I also have a list of the top 5 Packers I think are under the most pressure in 2025 that we will get to in a bit as well. And, of course, we'll wrap up the show as we always do, what we learned / what we missed. I think we're having – I don't want to call it an identity crisis because it's a great segment. We just don't know what to call it. Is it what we learned, what we missed, a little bit of both? Because I think the big part of me calling it what we missed now is Will Summers has been keeping a tally of words Josh says during the show that he doesn't know what they mean.
Yes.
And I think it's a stretch to call it what Will learned. Will doesn't learn these words. He just they went right over his head.
Did you guys not hear my Will's week? Used all of them perfectly.
Yeah, but it took you multiple weeks to learn them.
And multiple tries in some cases as well.
I'm still not fully convinced he knows what wax poetically means.
Sounds cool.
Did it again.
Yeah, Josh is stuck on this metal puzzle thing, and it's going to get really annoying at some point. But speaking of really annoying, I imagine that's how Josh was feeling with me as he jumped in my car, my Ford Focus, at 8:30 a.m. this morning to drive up here to Carlsville in Door County. We spent, about 2 hours, 45 minutes in the car together, Joshie, this morning. Tell me how it went for you. How was the car ride with one Alex Strouf to kick off your Friday?
Well, I'm here. I'm in one piece. I thank you for that. But It was a tour de force in your sort of special brand of stream of consciousness. We talked initially some work-related things that lasted us about a half hour. So the remaining 2 hours and 10 minutes were spent with you deciding to tell me every little detail of the things we passed. I learned where Alex Strouf had his first kiss.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that was something that he felt necessary to tell me. Mind you, this is also, as he's pointing off to his right-hand side, as we're getting back on the freeway, and he decides to merge at 50 miles per hour on a 70-mile-per-hour highway. And I said, are you going to get going here, or what's your plan? So we had that. That was I'd call that dangerous, entering a freeway 20 miles under traffic.
Can you rewind for a second? Where was Strouf's first kiss?
Well, it wasn't my first kiss. It was a particular kiss. We're not going to get into the details of that. But as we were getting back on the highway near Manitowoc, Wisconsin, I pointed to my right and I said, hey, Joshy, what do you know about the Manitowoc County Fair? And I believe his response was, nothing.
Not a damn thing?
Yeah, nothing. And I said, well, had one of my first kisses at the Manitowoc County Fair many, many years back when I lived in the Manitowoc area. So he told them that stream of consciousness, as one does.
I also got pointed towards an exit to see where he used to umpire games with.
Yeah, and Maribel. Yeah.
You being an umpire and a snitch and a narc, that fits totally.
Snitch and narc.
Yeah, that's just. You're kind of dweeby, dorky.
I mean, Jesse Nelson was an umpire, too, and he used the hall monitor, so it fits.
But I'm not Jesse. I'm also not a narc.
Yes, but we have to consider it now, knowing that you umpired it in your time.
I can't trust you anymore, man.
And then he decided to tease the arrival of Denmark, his hometown. He said, well, why don't you just wait here for one more exit, and you'll see why. I also, for some reason, was told all about the Arby's that he visited as a kid and the specific menu items. It was just like there's one piece of, here's my hometown. There's where I lived. There's where I went to high school. Not that's the Arby's I used to enjoy going to. I couldn't care less. I don't know if anybody on earth could care.
I would just make the point that it was less about the Arby's and more about the gas station changing brands.
Oh, yes. We went from a Shell to a BP, no free ads. But that apparently was a big transition for you that I don't think you've quite wrestled yet with this moment. I mean, there's other things that I'm sure will pop back into my mind as the show goes on. You played some of the worst music I've ever listened to in my life.
Relax.
How many Shinedown songs?
Zero Shinedowns. I think he was trying to be like trendy and cool and play. He's like, I'm super into this band recently.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, awesome. Love to hear that. Totally concerned about that.
Yeah, but Strouf, people that are trying to not feel cool aren't going to just say, I'm super into this band right now. You're just going to play it and wait for the response.
Super into the band.
I know you. That's what you were doing.
I said, I've been on a little bit of a tuxedo kick recently.
And then he decided to make the obvious joke. I'm not talking about the clothing either. I'm talking about the band. And I said, yeah, okay. Yep, gotcha. Very little time spent on what we were going to do today, which I think is a good thing because that means we can get freestyle. We can be a little more creative.
Yeah.
We've got the parameters. Anything else that stuck? Oh, this was a thing that I think this was simply just we were in a car too long. And, I mean, as you've noticed, I got no problem just sitting in silence. Not a thing for Strouf.
No.
Doesn't like that.
Doesn't work.
So it turned into him just reading the signs that we were passing on the way here.
Did I do that?
That's the worst road trip etiquette.
Howie's Tackle and Motel.
Well, that was just in my defense.
And then you read me off banks. I know what bank you bank at now. I couldn't care less. And then we read another bank sign and said, I'd never bank there. It's a rival of Denmark. And I was like,
Yes.
Why do you think any human being would care about that information?
Here's the thing. I don't think it was me subconsciously going, well, I think he cares about this. It was more like we've been silent for 3 minutes. I got to say something.
Yeah.
3 minutes. You couldn't handle 3 minutes of silence.
No, and once that started happening, I said, well, I'm going to just keep this going because I know it's driving him nuts. So I'm going to stay right where I am, not saying a word, and just kind of going,
Okay, I could tell Joshy at points during our car ride without saying anything would have like a devilishly adjacent smile, right? Where like I knew he was thinking something, but he wasn't saying anything.
Yeah.
So I knew this would get repurposed and eventually used here on Mr. Relevant.
Just doing my
Door
job.
County Distillery, and that's exactly what Joshy was doing was his job. So that was the car ride here. The point the point we're bearing is we still have to do this back to Milwaukee.
Yes. I'm hoping I can maybe visit a few of the bars around here that have drinks, and I can just have some, and that way maybe you'll be more funny, more entertaining as I ride in the passenger seat with a couple cocktails in my blood.
Well, and plus you get that like hour and a half mark, then you kind of the tiredness hits, and then you can just fall asleep. It's on Strouf to keep you alive.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you say you're a good road trip partner?
I think I'm better than you would expect, but I don't know if good is the word I would use.
After hearing this, there's nothing less I would want to do than go on a road trip with you.
How?
There's
I won't
no
argue
way.
that. I won't argue.
Here's another question.
Sure.
How long does a drive need to be for it to be considered a road trip? 'Cause
Over an hour.
Over an hour seems like, I mean, I drive over an hour to go golfing, but I wouldn't say I'm going on a road trip to go golfing.
Well, that's a road trip to go golfing.
No.
Hate to break it to
I
you.
don't think anybody would agree with 1 hour.
I think it's 90 minutes plus.
I think, see, but I'm having a hard time with like,
Because people commute to work for an hour.
yeah, and when we go to a Packers game or Green Bay, that's not a road trip. You're just going to.
Well, but I think then you're going to an event, so you lose the road trip.
I think you have to surpass 2.5 hours. I think that has to be it. Because past that, I think you're just going somewhere. And I think that's also pretty specific because, like, out west, if you live in, like, say, a Montana or a Washington, 2-3 hour drives are just part of the deal out there. If you want to go somewhere, things are pretty spread out.
Doesn't this then, too, kind of get into the, like, what's up north conversation? Because I
Yes.
feel like it's very subjective.
Yes.
For me living in Madison, I get more than an hour. I'm, like, just barely getting outside of Madison. So I got to hit that 90-minute plus mark before I've really gone somewhere. And kind of the same thing for you guys, where it's, like, up north for me growing up near Oshkosh. I mean, I got to get way up there before I feel like I've actually gone somewhere. So I think it's the same thing. It just depends on where you are.
Oh, I don't know about that.
For somebody who wouldn't stop talking, you're being awfully quiet in this
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, because I'm thinking. Well, first off, you hurt my feelings. Second off,
Oh, you poor thing.
second off, I'm trying to debate the whole up north thing, and I think Hunter's actually onto something, which I rarely say around here. I think it's subjective, unfortunately. As much as I'd like to draw the line, and I think Highway 29 is the line, but
see,
that's
the problem with up north is I would consider, even if you travel, like, let's say 45 minutes north of Milwaukee, but you're at a lake and Lake Holmes, like, up north is as much a feeling as it is actually, like, traveling.
Okay,
you know?
I'll give you that.
Like, there's an aspect of, yeah, I'm only an hour outside of Milwaukee, and you could drive another 5 hours before you hit the top of the state, which is like up north, like Eagle River area. But what we're doing here is up north things. We're going swimming, we're going fishing. We got a cabin here. Our internet's not the best. Like, we're spending time outside. That it's as much a feeling as it is a destination.
A feeling as it is a destination.
I didn't expect to get philosophical.
Waxing poetic
I'll
here.
tell you
20
what,
minutes in.
waxing poetic is Josh DiMaggio here on Mr. Relevant, which is live from Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits here in Door County. Good to be back here. Alex Strouf, Josh DiMaggio, Hunter Vaughn hanging out with you. All right, let's get to last night's big debut. Jacob Miserowski, one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball, finally makes his Milwaukee Brewers debut, and boy, did he make it in fashion at AmFam Field last night as the Brewers continue to roll now 4 games above 500, a 6-0 win last night over the St. Louis Cardinals, pretty much leapfrogging them last night in the standings, now 5.5 games back of the Chicago Cubs in the NL Central. Brewers go all the way from 4th place to 2nd place in the matter of a couple of weeks, and looks like they've got a new gem on the roster. Jacob Miserowski, who is unbelievable, right? 6'7", which is unheard of. 100 miles an hour every pitch, it seems.
About 150 pounds soaking wet.
Yep.
Right.
He looks stringy up there.
He's a taller version of me, right? Like just
No, here we go.
Well, and he's actually an athlete and can
Well, that
do
part,
things well.
that part
do
too.
things
yeah.
well.
That part too. 5 innings, no hits, no runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. The final line for Jacob Miserowski, and then ultimately rolls his ankle on catching essentially a ball back from Contreras, and then is pulled from the game. I don't know if they would have pulled him anyway, but 5 no-hit innings is still ridiculous.
Yeah,
He's fine, which is the good news.
It's important to note that the ankle roll was set on by the cramping, which if you think of yourself like when your leg falls asleep or something, you lose function of that. That seems to be what happened is his ankle, foot, lower halves were not
Do you
working.
think he tried pointing his toes at his head?
No, because his foot was down when he did it.
I think it cramped up. He tried to take a step as it cramped.
But we've all had those in like laying in bed, old calf cramp.
You pull the toes to your. You don't even need to actually physically pull them. You can just
point them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point them towards your chin. You said something
breaths.
there that I feel like I have to mention. You said he did it in fashion. Usually there's a word that precedes the fashion thing. He did it in impressive fashion, in amazing fashion. You just said he did it in fashion, which could mean literally
fashion.
anything.
I mean, fashion at the root of the word is a compliment.
No. Because in this sense,
it could be an embarrassing fashion.
Right.
Well, it wasn't that.
No,
I feel like
you
that's
forgot
implied.
the word. You just said he did it in a way. That was ostensibly what you said there.
He did a thing.
I think he did a thing. Yeah.
You forgot an adjective to describe what fashion.
What if I
did it
chose not to use an adjective?
Then you're not making sense. It's not a sentence that's coherent.
I think it's coherent.
No.
Jacob Miserowski
It's only
debuted in
coherent
fashion.
to you.
He debuted in fashion.
That's not how you say that.
No.
You're saying he debuted in a way. That's basically what you're saying.
Well, I would say it was ultimately a way that was pretty good, pretty impressive, pretty awesome.
Usually it's in impressive fashion.
Well, I would say that's what
in
it was.
Phenomenal fashion.
I'd even go that far for Jacob Miserowski.
You forgot that
last
part.
night. Are we so hung up on my vocabulary that we're not even going to be able to talk about Jacob Miserowski?
We speak for a living.
Strouf, your vocabulary, if someone listens back to this on the ESPN Wisconsin app, if they just like zone out for a second and then that's what they hear, they're like, wait, how did he perform? You missed the word that would tell people how he performed.
You're using fashion to describe a positive when it's not.
Can we start over?
Yeah, let's get back to business.
Back to business. Very well done by Will. Back at the Gruber Loves Studios in downtown Milwaukee. Okay, let's start over. Last night, an incredible debut for Jacob Miserowski, who shows up to AmFam Field in Milwaukee in impressive fashion.
Yes.
There we go.
You did it.
All right, five innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks for Miserowski, one of the top prospects in all of baseball in his debut. 6'7", 100-mile-an-hour pitches. His first 3 pitches, by the way, 100, 101, 101.
Yeah, I've seen the stat. I've heard it multiple times, but he had more 100-mile-per-hour pitches than the Brewers have had in all their history in one singular start. That he had hit that mile per hour higher than anybody else. Like it was, he
only threw 81 pitches.
Yes,
yeah.
I believe 14 of them were above 100 miles per hour. The broadcast was laughing at his 96 mile per hour breaking ball. Which almost every pitcher would love to have a 96 mile per hour fastball. So it's rarefied air. It also looks so effortless. When you watch him up there, it doesn't look like he's, throwing everything he has. I mean, he obviously is. He's throwing the ball 102 miles per hour, but it doesn't look labored. It doesn't look like it's difficult.
Agreed.
It seems like it's something that comes easy to him. And short of that rolled ankle / cramp, I mean, he had a no-hitter going through 5.
Right.
It was short of the gaudy strikeout numbers, one of the more impressive things we've seen from this Brewers team, and a thing that makes you have a lot of hope and optimism about a team that not long ago we were saying, can they score runs?
Yeah, we thought they were dead in the water, 3 weeks ago at this point. They go on that really nice stretch with a couple of sweeps against Boston and Philadelphia, win the series against Cincinnati. Now come back to earth a little bit the last week or so. Lose the series to San Diego 1-2, lose the series to Atlanta 1-2. But a nice return as they get back to divisional play here against St. Louis, a 4-game weekend series here in Milwaukee. Get get a day off Monday, and then they head to Chicago to take on the Cubs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. But this is a team, to your point, Joshy, who just 3 weeks ago, I think we were having the conversation of, Mark Antanasio, the owner of the Brewers, before the season said, hey, man, am I just here to provide family fun? And he said it sarcastically, but am I here just to provide family fun?
It was a rhetorical question.
It was.
Those are two different things.
And I ultimately think the turnaround is what is so impressive and what is so gutsy about this team. This is the identity of the Brewers team we were used to seeing a year ago, where the young guns are starring, and it doesn't matter who they're pulling out of the bullpen or starting on the mound. It didn't matter last year, right? They just found unique ways and different ways to win ball games, depending on which bat. None of it mattered, right? They just found ways to win baseball games, and they got away from that and were not in that rhythm at the beginning of this season. But they go on that really nice stretch where they won whatever it was, 9 in a row. And we were very close to free burgers at local George Webb's in the Milwaukee area. But ultimately they lose last Tuesday to Cincinnati. And now it's kind of been back to earth. It's like they're winning every other game. But the fun part about this Brewers team, and to the point on maybe 3 weeks ago we weren't ready to have this conversation, is, okay, all of a sudden they're in striking distance. They're 5.5 games back as it stands today from the Chicago Cubs for first place in the NL Central, which seems like the route you likely have to go to make the playoffs, although they have made the wild card conversation, the wild card chase, a little bit more interesting than it was a couple weeks ago, as some of those teams in the NL West have fallen down a little bit. But the point is here, the Brewers are fun. And you're getting into June, and all of a sudden you have this unbelievable prospect in Jacob Miserowski finally making his debut and looking like, whoa, actually, he's going to be a really nice asset for this team. And you look across, like Chad Patrick, who I know we talked about earlier in the week, who legitimately has a case to be the Brewers all-star in his rookie year and could be looked at as one of the
top 10 in NL Rookie of the Year voting currently.
I think he's top 3.
I just looked at Potawatomi today.
You looked at the odds?
Yes.
Gotcha. I would assume, though, if the voting happened today, he'd be top 3.
Yeah, I mean, what they're baking into that price is basically this guy doesn't seem to be the type of guy who would wire-to-wire be performing at the level he is. And, I mean, that's the interesting thing about baseball, why it's you should always be cautious about overreacting on any singular event, why you shouldn't be Jesse Nelson and tossing out the idea of maybe perhaps at Pablo's birthday that we should have a conversation about him being fired. We're nowhere near there. There's a lot of ways to go. The Brewers still don't seem like a favorite to win the division. 5.5 games, even at this point, it doesn't sound daunting, but throughout the course of an entire season, it is a lot. But what has happened is the NL doesn't seem to have those strong wild cards that we were expecting, with some of the teams that everyone thought were going to be contenders maybe falling off and not having their best years. So I feel pretty good about the Brewers being a playoff team, which if you know Mark and you know the things he likes, being in the mix, that's basically all we can expect as Brewers fans.
Yeah. Just to check on some of the numbers, Chad Patrick right now, at least on ESPN, they have him at plus 800, which would be third for NL Rookie of the Year. First for NL Rookie of the Year, Drake Baldwin, the catcher of the Braves, Madison West grad, so local Wisconsin kid. Be great if the Badgers actually had a baseball program and then he could have played for the Badgers too.
That's one of Hunter's all-time favorite gripes, is the fact that Wisconsin doesn't have a baseball team. And I agree with him on it. It's just, if he has an opportunity to mention it, he's going to take his opportunity.
Well, I have to. I need to let the world know. Also, Logan Henderson, 22-1, but I think he just got sent down as well now. So
if you look also, strangely enough, at Potawatomi Sportsbook, the odds are even between Miserowski and Chad Patrick to be the NL Rookie of the Year. After one start, what they're betting on there is all the hullabaloo about that kid and the way he was rated as a prospect. He wasn't just one of the Brewers' best prospects. He's one of the best prospects in all of baseball, which teams love to be like, well, he's the 18th guy in our system, and then you look and it's not even a top 100 player. But this is legitimately one of the guys in the league that everybody's kind of keeping an eye out. It's not just Brewers fans.
Are we worried that Chad Patrick and Miserowski could do what Russell Wilson and Monte Ball did to each other
the old
with
takeaway.
the Heisman votes, and they kind of steal from each other.
I don't know, because Miserowski is such one of one. There aren't many starters, save for like Paul Skeens, throwing
this gross stuff.
Right. Yeah. That I think he will be able to differentiate himself in the fact that people are going to have an eye on it when they see there's a starter going late into games or into the 5th, 6th inning throwing 102. People are going to be like, what do they got going on here with this kid?
Yeah. I mean, it's just we've talked about the youth movement with the Packers, and I know I killed it on Wednesday's edition. If you missed that, you can find it ESPN Wisconsin app, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. But I think it's a fun parallel. And, Josh, I know you've shot me down on this before.
That's what I'm good at.
Yeah, you are. It's one of your top skills, I would agree. But it's one of the things where you've shot me down on, I view the Brewers as kind of youth movement-esque, right? Because all these young guns the past few years have come in and played such a significant role. I think Bryce Terang, probably the best example, at least from a position player standpoint. I won't even throw my guy Sal Frelick out there right now. Bryce Terang being the I'll get back to Sal Frelick hitting leadoff in just a moment.
Make him hit leadoff.
Yeah. Did you see how he did last night out of leadoff? 4th time he's done it this year. 3 for 4 last night. Great game for Sal Frelick.
It helped Yelich for that stretch. He went to the leadoff, and it got him out of a slump.
Interesting. Anyway, but the youth movement, I think, is the Brewers thing now. Right, and they have their veterans. They have the Yeliches. They have the Rhys Hoskins. They have the
I want to make a
Contrerases.
very big difference right out the gate. The Packers' youth movement is due to a philosophical difference. The Brewers
is from a cha-ching standpoint.
It's cheaper.
Yep.
That's the difference.
Yep.
Well, you could say, yes, they are in similar points, like in their, sort of ascension and being competitive. The Brewers are young out of necessity, whereas the Packers have
necessity is probably not the right word, but
it's the right word.
I don't know if it is.
But would they didn't have to let Willie Adames go. They didn't have to let Corbin
Right,
Burns
so that's
go.
why it's not necessity.
Yeah. They're making the choice.
No, they weren't able to pay those guys.
Well, they were. They just chose not to.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a necessity.
It's a choice. It's not a necessity.
Well, it's a necessity when your owner says, no, we won't pay them.
Okay, sure. From a Matt Arnold perspective, it might be a necessity.
Yes.
Yeah.
But from a Mark Antanasio perspective, it is not.
The Brewers as a whole, it's not a necessity. Front office, it is.
Right, yes. It's a necessity from that level, yes. Mark, these people, those guys could be paid. They are making an argument that, no, we can't actually do it. Yes, you can.
Correct.
Where the Packers are doing it out of, Brian Gutekunst believes it's the best way to manage and build a team, where the Brewers don't necessarily believe that. They just don't want to pay to keep guys.
A couple of fallout things from the Miserowski call-up and start last night. So let's start with yesterday's birthday boy and one of the more unique stories you'll see out of Milwaukee this season, as Aaron Civale requests a trade on his 30th birthday after Miserowski was called up and Pat Murphy and company made the call and told Civale, hey, you're going to be working out of the pen now. You're going to be a relief pitcher for us. Civale, on his 30th birthday, says, not happening, and requests a trade from the Milwaukee Brewers, who, if you haven't been listening for the last 20 minutes, have been on a pretty nice heater the last 3 weeks or so, as they have themselves back in contention in the NL Central, back in contention 2.5 games back of the final wild card spot as it stands right now in the National League. Civale, who was having a fine season. Is fine an okay word here?
Was his ERA in the 5 starts he had near 5?
It was near 5, yes.
Yeah, that's not really what you're looking for from a starting pitcher.
But that's why you make the decision of, hey, we're gonna limit your innings and put you in the pen, and we don't want you starting for us anymore when we've got 100-mile-an-hour, 6'7" Jacob Miserowski waiting in the wings. Yeah. So Civale gets told he's going to get moved to the bullpen, and Civale says, I don't really want to be a part of that. Actually,
so fast, bucko.
I'd prefer if you traded me. And Matt Arnold goes, okay. Sure. No loss for us, right? I mean, whatever. Like Josh, you mentioned, he's been kind of all year long for them. And by no means was Aaron Civale viewed as like an absolute ace, right? A guy you need on your ball team.
End of the starting.
End of the rotation.
The eighth starter
yeah.
that I have
But as we know with the Brewers, especially this year, but same as last year, right? It's injury after injury after injury in the starting rotation. So to use the word necessity, Aaron Civale starting for a portion of this season was a necessity. But you get to a point where you think Miserowski's ready. You call him up. You say, hey, man, now it's your time to shine in the major leagues. And Civale says, okay, yeah, trade me. So Matt Arnold goes, okay, happy birthday to you. I'm trading you to the freaking Chicago White Sox. You're going to go to the second worst team in the league, but over the course of the last 2 years, the worst team in the league, the worst team it possibly could be, the Chicago White Sox. In return, guy by the name of Andrew Vaughn, first baseman, who the Brewers get back, the former number 3 overall pick in 2019. Not having a great year, hitting 198 as 5 home runs on the year. So.
Not a great 2 past years.
He's not a great player. Right? Andrew Vaughn is not.
Highly touted, a guy who showed signs early in his career with the White Sox and then quickly tapered off and became, frankly, a fringe roster guy, a big league guy. So I do believe in the Brewers' development system. That's why they are able to put competitive teams on the field, because they are able to bring around youth and get the most out of a lot of players. The one thing I saw Civale talk to the media, which he didn't have to do in that situation where after he requested the trade, and he said, I want to be a starter. I've been working towards a starter. That's my goal, which all fine and good. I do think if he was getting probably a little better advice or stronger advice, someone would tell him, hey, if you move to the bullpen, it might actually extend your career.
Correct.
Because this whole starting thing is you're on the borderline. If you go and focus on, I need 1 or 2 good innings every other day, that might be a better thing for you and a better way to extend your career, because a lot of pitchers have to totally reinvent themselves as they get older. I mean, Justin Verlander for a long time struggled after he was dominant. Mm-hmm. He didn't accept that, hey, I'm not the guy who's going to throw it by you and have a ton of movement and all. You have to change your style of pitching, and it's something that no one's losing sleep over it. You get a young guy who either is impressive and is a future plan at first base, or you move on from him like you would have probably with Civale after this season or whenever his contract.
Well, there's 2 things with Andrew Vaughn I want to get to, and neither of them involve you, Josh.
Well, we're getting Vaughn breakdowns?
We're getting Vaughn breakdowns.
Wow.
Because to my left, is Hunter Vaughn.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Hunter Vaughn, are you going to buy an Andrew Vaughn jersey?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like I have to.
Will they be for sale?
Yeah, well, number 1, will they be for sale? Number 2, will he be on the Brewers for longer than
a Nashville
week?
Sounds Vaughn jersey?
Well,
that
I
could
look at
actually
it this
be kind
way.
of fun, by the way. That's actually not a bad idea.
But then 2, I look at it as, there's places I don't have to go directly through the very expensive ones. There are places I could go and not spend triple digits on this jersey.
Okay.
So I think I may just have to pull the trigger on that. You have your Jordan Love jersey that you got from China.
I do.
It took a month to get here, but I can just go that route.
No, mine didn't take that long to get here. That one only took a few weeks.
Okay, perfect.
Proud of you.
I've bought a few
Thanks,
hockey sweaters that took a month to get here.
Sweaters.
Sweaters.
That's what they're called.
They are called. It makes me laugh every
Is that wait? They're not jerseys. They're sweaters
they
in
call
hockey.
them sweaters. Yeah.
They're
I got to be
long
honest.
sleeves.
I
It's a
never knew
sweater.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
The more you know.
You learn something new every day.
The pants they wear in hockey called breezers.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Uniform lingo is insane to me. All right, the other part I want to get to on Andrew Vaughn is I would like a 1-sentence breakdown from our resident Chicago White Sox fan on this program. That, of course, is Will Summers from the Chicago area. Will, give me a 1-sentence Andrew Vaughn breakdown. What do us as Brewers fans need to know about the new first baseman they have acquired in the hilarious trade that is the Aaron Civale trade? Andrew Vaughn, the new Brewer. 1 sentence. Will, go ahead.
He's very unexciting. I just have a stat. That's all I need to tell you guys. He's a minus
this is more than 1 sentence.
minus 1.6 B WAR this season, second worst in the MLB.
Fantastic. They got a real stud on the Brewers. Good stuff there.
Good news is AmFam Field is very hitter-friendly.
It is.
So it could help wake some things up. He just, gets a hold of one when they've got the shutters open in outfield and the roof is closed. The ball sucks out of there, gets some confidence going, and all of a sudden things take off. I got to be positive about the Brewers.
Well, I like change of scenery, right? I'm a big fan of change of scenery.
Get him on the juice.
Or just give him steroids, says Josh.
Yep.
Yeah, that could work too. Why not? Make baseball fun again. The other fallout, maybe not fallout, from Jacob Miserowski being called up is I think we're having a nickname crisis. Everybody's been calling him the Miz.
You should like this one.
So I do like this one from a perspective of I'm a WWE fan.
Dork.
And Dork is fine too. But the Miz has been in WWE for like 18 years.
Yes. Formerly of Road Rules fame.
Real World.
So he probably did the challenges at one point.
Yeah. I think
His name is Mike Mizanin, so he
Yeah.
went by the Miz on the Real World, and
Creative.
then became a WWE guy, yada yada. So that's how he became the Miz. So I feel like that nickname is already taken and popularized. So I don't really think we can call Jacob Miserowski the Miz. But I'm struggling to come up with other names. But I do have one I'd like to throw out.
Oh, no.
So, obviously, this is an electric debut. One of the best debuts in Wisconsin sports history by Jacob Miserowski yesterday.
Suck, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah.
So,
Buckle in.
when I think about one of the most exciting debuts, at least in recent history for Wisconsin sports, I think of Hunter and Guesses.
Sam Congato.
No, post that.
Okay.
Post Sam Congato.
Graham Mertz.
Good pull, though. Yes, Graham Mertz is who I'm thinking of. Graham Mertz, of course, his debut with the Wisconsin Badgers back in 2020 against Illinois was a 5-touchdown performance, and we were all very irrational about our expectations of what Graham Mertz could
Heisman.
become.
Paul Christ held him back.
Graham Mertz defender Hunter Vaughn with us. Graham Mertz was given a nickname by one Josh DiMaggio, and that was what?
Well, he followed first Jack Cohn, which was the Long Island Laser.
Yep.
I think it was the better nickname.
Yeah, that was a good one. And I actually think that was a loyal listener to ESPN Madison who deemed him that. You want an honest answer here? I'm blanking on what we called Mertz.
It had to do with his home state.
The Kansas Cannon. There it is.
Correct.
Yes.
The Kansas Cannon. Are we aware where Jacob Miserowski is from?
Not the slightest
I mean,
idea.
I looked it up. I cheated.
That's fine. The
Missouri.
answer. He is from Missouri. So how about,
The Missouri Missile.
you got it, the Missouri Missile for
Too
Jacob
much.
Miserowski. Come
No.
on, that's
No.
good.
You can't
No.
be one syllable and make it that many more. You have to. It would have to be the Missouri Mizzle.
I'm fine with that.
But then, too, if you put the nickname in the middle of his name, you'd be going Jacob the Missouri Miserowski. That's too long.
Yeah.
No,
Guy's
I
6'7".
would.
Just go the Big Miz.
I think the Miz.
Big Miz.
I think the Big Miz is adequate.
I'm good with the Big Miz. I was really proud of the Missouri Missile.
See, whenever
though.
I hear big, though, I expect larger. He's 6'7".
But he's skinny.
I expect a little meat and bones.
Right.
When
Which
it's the
there's
big,
that fun with
the
it, too.
big
'cause
show,
it's
the
like
big
he's-
unit.
Yeah.
Big show, yes.
Randy Johnson was skinny, though, too.
Yes.
So
he was actually 225, which compared to
Sneaky
Miserowski,
225.
compared to
Is
Miserowski,
Miserowski's weight available or just his height?
197.
that's not
Woo!
close.
6'7", 197.
He's not close. He is a string bean.
Yeah, he is. No doubt about that.
But that's probably why. I mean, a lot of times, like long, lanky golfers, because they're able to create so much torque with all that body length, like that's probably helps him throw 102 miles per hour late into baseball games.
Well, nicknames often corny. So is the Packers president and CEO, Mark Murphy. The final mandatory minicamp, the final practice that Mark Murphy will proceed over as the president and CEO of the Packers is in the books as
Preside, by the way.
What did I say?
Proceed.
Joshy?
Yeah, proceed as before.
Yeah.
So I'm just having a rough vocabulary day is what I've discovered here at Door County. Did you just hear that?
Yeah, we'll give you a ha-ha.
It's not so fun, is it?
Yeah, not so fun when the rabbit's got the gun.
Will, do you have any words on your list thus far? I just want a yes or no.
Yeah, I got to it. I might have to put whatever Josh just said on there. I don't know.
What'd you just say?
When the rabbit's got the gun?
When the rabbit's got the gun. I know what
Okay,
that
I
was.
didn't hear what he said.
Okay. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, because people hunt rabbits.
Good job. Yeah, exactly.
There's
Elmer
a
Fudd.
famous, I was going to say, there's a famous cartoon.
Yep.
I like that's his move whenever he says something maybe dumb. He whoops and tries to make us laugh so we move on. It's a heady play.
It works.
It's a veteran move from the young
It
Will.
works very well. So, preside over.
Yes.
So the final practice Mark Murphy presides over was yesterday in Green Bay. and his tenure as the president CEO will come to an end the first week of July. We're going to get one final Murphy Takes 5, my favorite article, over at Packers.com, and then that will do it for Mark Murphy. But Mark Murphy had the opportunity to speak to the team in the huddle at Mandatory Minicamp yesterday and ultimately break down the huddle. Here's how that sounded across the street from Lambeau Field yesterday in Green Bay.
Everybody knows that Mark Murphy, after 17 years, is retiring. He's the only man that's won a Super Bowl as a player and as a CEO.
There was an earthquake.
Right?
Believe to me.
Well, I believe it, Mark. But I'll tell you what, he changed my life. He's changed a lot of people's lives for the better around here. He's a great leader, but an even better man. And he is the epitome of what it means to be a Green Bay Packer. So I thought it was appropriate. He'll be the last one to address our team as the president.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. I'll be very brief, but I tell you, I've been around the NFL a long time, as a player, and certainly 18 years here. I really sense something special with this team, and hopefully you see the same thing. And the last thing I'd say, you have to believe it to achieve it. 1, 2, 3. Super Bowl!
All right, let's try it. Hands in, please.
I'm not doing this.
Come on, Joshy.
Stop touching me.
1, 2, 3.
Get your hands off.
All right, good try. That's Mark Murphy at Packers Mandatory Minicamp yesterday. Couple of things there. What is it? You got to believe it to achieve it?
Yep.
Where do you think he pulled that one from?
A fortune cookie.
A millennials poster.
A Facebook meme he saw one of his friends share. I mean,
a Facebook mom probably posted it.
It's ostensibly saying nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I appreciate the regard, right? He senses something special here, as I do too, right? Like, I think this can be a really good football team in 2025. I don't know if I'm ready to say they're Super Bowl favorites or they're Super Bowl champion worthy. I'm not going to crown their asses like that on June 13th, but I think certainly the Packers have the pieces in place to be a team that is certainly in the mix. Now, I just don't know if that's going to fire up the guys like Mark Murphy intended. You got to see it to achieve. What is it? You got to believe it to achieve it?
I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention. I got to be totally honest. The one thing I keep getting hung up with, and it's a thing I've noticed recently about Mark Murphy, he's incapable of just saying sentences without laughing. Like, even after they do the 1, 2, 3 Super Bowl, I believe you can hear a faint.
You can.
I don't know if that's like a nervous tick for him or if he thinks he's like a funny guy all the time and what they were doing was kind of funny that he was breaking down. It's just he's just always doing that. It's hard for him to talk without laughing at his own words.
Well, can you find the 1, 2, 3 Super Bowl giggle, please?
I believe it's with 4 seconds left in that clip. You can start
from
there.
You have to believe it to achieve it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Super Bowl!
It's every time he speaks. I don't know what that is, and it makes me awkward every time because I imagine him being like, "Hey, hon, I'm going to run to the bathroom."
It's just a default setting there.
Right.
Rather than an exclamation point,
right.
Mark Murphy has his own giggles. And look, I think this guy could pursue a career in stand-up comedy if he wants, and he honestly might once his retirement kicks in next month.
I think he's hitting the golf course and he ain't leaving.
That's probably true.
He's going down to Florida.
Yeah. Well, he has the one near Green Bay.
Thornberry Creek, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
I had a wedding there last year. Beautiful course.
Cool.
Great. I'm understanding what the car ride was like just from that comment.
I'm nervous about courts, guys.
Don't be nervous.
We're okay.
Everything's fine. So the Mark Murphy stuff, very fun, goofy, very Mark Murphy-esque. Look, I'm kind of sad, man, because Ed Policy is going to be so buttoned up and so well-respected league-wide. And it's not to say Mark Murphy's not, because he is respected league-wide. But he's just a very goofy cat. And as much as that annoyed me at times with Mark Murphy, right? And no example better.
Complicated fella.
Yeah, well, actually, that was not the example I was going to use. No example better than the WIAA Girls Basketball State Championships in Green Bay when he went on the TV network and kind of let it bleed that they were going to be moving on from Aaron Rodgers this offseason, or that offseason. And that was certainly not the place nor the time to go ahead and announce that on the WIAA network, right? Like, that was just not the time for that.
No, it certainly wasn't the plan.
And ultimately, that's what happened. And we've talked before, right? I imagine being in PR for the Green Bay Packers might be a nightmare at times when you're working with a guy like Mark Murphy because he says a little bit too much most of the time. But given the job we do on a daily basis, I'm going to miss Mark Murphy. I'm going to miss hearing him laugh at his own jokes. I'm going to miss hearing him say stupid things he probably shouldn't have. So the final thing he gives us is a Packers huddle, 1, 2, 3, Super Bowl, ha, 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 will be the lasting impression on my brain of Mark Murphy's tenure.
No. You're forgetting one important detail. He's going to get his swan song in front of a captive audience, an audience of thousands.
When he's inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame?
Nope. When they do the transition at the shareholders meeting, like publicly.
Well, that's when they're doing it?
Yes, there's going to be some passing of the torch or something along.
You think he's literally going to bring a torch? It would be out of character.
I don't know.
No, he'll bring a 45-minute speech.
I don't know if he's a prop comic. I'm going to be honest. I think he's going to
Carrot Top,
much like Steve Martin's prop comic. Do you know that? It's going to be much like Matt LaFleur's introductory press conference where he spoke for 30 minutes uninterrupted before announcing his new hire. I believe there's going to be a lot of that. And let's be honest, that might be what those shareholders want to hear because you never know what the guy's going to say. Price of admission, you get Mark Murphy sort of, giving his swan song, his last hurrah as Packers CEO.
See, I think you're going to actually enjoy the quiet. Because,
no, I won't. I can guarantee. You think I like quiet?
No, I think you will from the team. I think there's going to be a level of you can just talk about ball with the Packers in a way that Mark Murphy hasn't allowed for you.
So as content creators and radio hosts and the job we have, I much prefer Mark Murphy giving us something to talk about. It's entertaining. But we are going to be left with a little hole in our – I mean, as long as I've done this, Mark Murphy's been doing stuff, saying stuff he probably shouldn't. He named himself like czar of everything, going against what Bob Harlan has done. I don't imagine, if you know anything about rich and powerful people, they don't like to give up power. So I imagine Ed Policy is going to keep the structure the same. And that it's simply going to be probably the same stuff happening. We're just not going to hear about it as much, which I'm going to miss as somebody who has to, who gets the opportunity to speak to all the people out here, visit places like Door County Distillery, and talk about Mark Murphy. I imagine if we do this again next year, we're not going to have an Ed Policy segment lined up.
That would be a fair guess.
Yeah.
Because he is going to be all about the action, right? He's going to be all about that action, boss, like Marshawn Lynch once said.
Sick reference.
Ed Policy is.
I had no clue that was a reference. If you're gonna reference Marshawn Lynch, you go, I'm here so I won't get fined, or the driving the golf cart on Cal's field. Those are his two.
Does it stink for you that you can't sneak stuff by like you used to be able to?
When you weren't on the show?
Yeah.
No, I think it's entertaining.
Good.
You keep me on my toes.
Accountable, I like to think of
I don't think there's accountability here. You think I feel the
It makes me feel better thinking I'm holding you accountable.
Yeah, but do you think I feel an overwhelming sense of accountability?
Well, no, you don't
when
have
call
shame.
Me on that? Yeah, none at all. Why would I?
Well, I mean, if Tucker Kraft posted me looking as unathletic as anybody in the history of the world has looked, I'd feel shame.
But then I got to talk to Tucker Kraft. Do you
think he thought, wow, this guy's cool?
No, I don't think that was necessarily it. But I think he's never laughed harder in an interview setting than when I revealed to him that he was talking to the guy.
Well, that's a big proclamation. And he laughed because he was embarrassed he got caught saying, these are the guys that get paid to talk about us. He was being mean.
Yeah, but now we're buddies.
You're not buddies with Tucker Kraft.
Oh, no. Me and Tucker Kraft are pals. We saw him up at the draft in Green Bay, knocked a few back with him. We're good. We're on a good page.
Are you?
I would think me and Tucker Kraft could be considered friends, yeah.
Well, I don't think he would think of that way.
Yeah. And, what's the line for being considered friends with somebody like that?
We're not friends. I'm just being.
Okay. I needed to make sure you didn't actually think you were friends.
No, we're not. No, it was a good moment. Now, yes, I'm unathletic, but that does not take away from the fact. What were we talking about? You've
Mark
distracted
Murphy
me. Mark Murphy.
policy.
I mean, you derailed things by trying to sneak a Marshawn Lynch.
That's what it was. Ed policy's going to be all about that action, boss. That's what we were talking about. And the one thing I do hope for is he still writes the column, but I have a hard time believing that's going to happen.
No. That's a pretty unique thing.
Am I the only person that enjoys Murphy's Take Fives? Murphy Takes Five every month? First Saturday of the month, every month,
No,
Packers.com?
I mean, there's a big enough audience for it, I think. I think it's unique enough where I certainly will peruse it to see if there's anything interesting. I don't know if I enjoy it. I'm kind of just holding on and saying, well, what is he going to say this time?
So we discussed Wednesday, and before we get to Giannis, I want to get to this. We discussed Wednesday or Monday, maybe it was, about the Murphy Takes Five, the final edition coming in July, that we are going to write a question to him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What should that be?
I wish you would have given me a little preparation for this. I think we could come up with a lot of interesting ideas. I think you have to get him, much like you do the best when you're talking about yourself and thinking about yourself.
That seemed unnecessary.
No, it's totally true.
I think now the person who asked the question about his regrets is sort of the perfect kind of question. And I guess I'd want to know, aside from a Super Bowl, since you asked that, what do you actually, business-wise, what mistakes did you make? I think what he's going to do is just want to do a tour of congratulations of you were amazing, you did so good. I'd love an honest answer about the ski hill. Were you afraid when you reached terminal speed going down the ski hill with your hands above your head that you could be injured? I don't know what else.
There's the kind of you could go the basic route of what are you looking forward to most now that you're what's next for you?
I bet you it becomes a joke about his handicap.
And
how he's going to hope to get that number down now that he's going to be able to devote more time to his country club and golf.
Do you think he's going to write a book?
I think with the way the Green Bay Packers have prioritized making money and taking every dollar they can from fans, I think he's going to seek any way to continue to stock his own coffers.
Stock his own coffers. Will, go ahead and write that one down.
So you've made that line multiple times, Josh, about the Packers, but that's every single sports team.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Is there another sports team that throws in your face as much as is there any other team that's community owned?
Well, no. And that's what makes the stock.
Correct. And then they use it as a cudgel, as an excuse, and they like to put it on advertising and promotions, and they use it all the time. We have this unique structure. It's what makes us one of the greatest franchises on earth. And then they nickel and dime you every single year. There's no benefit to actually being a shareholder other than getting to go see Mark Murphy talk and maybe a couple players.
You get a little financial updates, though. I went last year.
Yeah, don't care. Those are public. They have to be.
Just for the record, that's when I left.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm going to continue to hold it against them because I think if they didn't talk about it and just operated like everyone else, fine. But there is no benefit at this point other than it being used as a weapon or a way to protect yourself, and that's what makes me protect themselves. That's what makes me.
I know the Chicago Bears regularly talk about how they're a oldest franchise, charter franchise. Mm-hmm. That you're okay with, just given that their structure is different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's all about the structure and the way that it's for how small of a community they're in. they think being average in ticket prices and concession prices is acceptable when it should be the lowest, because you're in the smallest market. Cost of living is the lowest amount there probably of any NFL city. Like, that's just the reality of it. And I know they draw from all around the state, but like, shouldn't they be the most affordable place on earth to watch a pro sporting event?
I mean, if we really want to get into the economics, there's the supply and demand here. The demand is so incredibly high.
Right, but they don't have to operate within that because they are community owned.
All right, I'm done listening to this. I think the ski hill could be an interesting angle for a question. I also think the Matt LaFleur hiring process. What was the moment that he knew? Because he's never been on the record.
When he found out that he coached under the Shanahans.
You think it's as simple as that?
Yes.
Yeah, at that time in the NFL, like, that was it. You got at least an interview.
Yes.
Oh, at the very least. And
because if you remember Matt LaFleur's first press conference, he doesn't strike me as a guy, and he's gotten better at it. He's not perfect at it. We definitely see him lose his cool or maybe say things in a way that he wouldn't want to or would like to take back. He doesn't seem like he's the best interview. He doesn't seem like he was a guy who like comes in and commands a room away like a Harbaugh would or a Dan Campbell would. It seems like it was like an X's and O's thing. And that, to me, is sort of not where I want Mark Murphy in the first place, despite him making the right decision and him deserving credit for getting the hire right. I think it was equal parts luck and football knowledge, I could say. Because, yeah, he's made himself the czar of all things Packers, and he gets to make decisions that previously were traditionally not the decision of the president and CEO of the Packers.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated by this whole transition. What's next? Are there philosophical differences? Is there going to be an obvious change?
No, I don't think fans will recognize much difference. I think the everyday fan, maybe us who are involved.
Well, right, and obviously we'll notice a change, to the things I was jokingly complaining about, right? An interview style, the things he says publicly, will he write the column? But I think from an organizational and structural perspective, they're always going to be the same. Right, that's so important to the Packers and the way they run the organization and the way they are viewed in the public light and the way they do things in the community. It's all pounded into Ed Policy's head at this point, given his tenure with the organization and ultimately when he takes over for Mark Murphy next month. I just imagine if he was breaking down a huddle, he wouldn't go with 1, 2, 3 Super Bowl.
It's hard to know. I know nothing about
the only goal, though.
Right?
Yeah. So of course you got to.
So something I noticed listening to that clip though that Will played before is he didn't say Super Bowl on 3. They just knew that's what they were supposed to yell.
Yeah, I mean,
does that mean they do that every practice?
I mean,
or it's almost like it was a PR stunt, Strouf, and they kind of knew what was going on.
But you think they told the players beforehand, hey, when he says 1, 2, 3?
No, but I think if he starts going 1, you're going to go to 3 there.
1, 2, 3.
Super Bowl! Right, but how did they know they needed to yell Super Bowl?
They just cut the clip. He for sure said it out loud.
He
beforehand.
definitely said, Super Bowl on 3, but they didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It wasn't necessary for the social media clip.
Well, I was curious if that's like their thing this year.
No.
Rather than.
You okay? The one thing I know for sure that's going to be a difference is Ed Policy is going to find himself in front of less microphones than Mark Murphy.
Not a high
And
bar,
I don't mean the obligated ones and the ones that are talking, when they do their usual owners meeting, all that stuff. It's probably going to be, instead of sending Mark Murphy out there to do the WIA interview, there's probably going to be somebody within the organization who sees an increased role in that. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just how I see it going. I think most people in those positions aren't particularly interested in going down to the Resch Center to do an interview with.
I mean, maybe Policy will, though.
Think of it like the Brewers, where we hear a lot of like Rick Schlesinger in those spots. That's sort of what I am, and I don't know who that is at the. I'm sure we could rattle off some names, Aaron Popke or someone along those lines, who's as tied in with the highest levels of the organization, but maybe is not the actual head guy.
Do you think there's any chance Ed Policy does, because it just came out this week with Jim Irsay's daughter, Carly Irsay, wears the headset on the sideline? Because
I
she
have
said
seen that before.
If you're spending millions of dollars investing in a coach, you want to know that they know what they're doing.
So she's going to be on the sideline?
She's been doing that.
She has been.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been clips of her that have been. I've seen a Colts fan talk about.
Yeah, I
Colts
mean,
fan.
literally 2 days ago, the Colts put out an article on their website explaining it.
Yeah,
That's fascinating. I like that. I mean,
I don't.
It's Jerry Jones territory.
Yeah, I want my owner to own, sign checks, and do that.
Yeah,
type of
I guess I
stuff.
should rephrase. I don't think I'd like it from the owner.
No.
I'd be fine with the GM doing that. I'd be fine with.
I mean, even then, there's a separation.
It's a little micromanagey.
Yeah.
But I don't want you wearing
Would
a
you-
headset with a microphone. I want you just wearing a headset.
Well, I think it's
where
just
I
the
can
headset
listen.
they have. Like, they don't turn it on so she can actually talk if she.
Yeah, but her whole
hasn't there
thing
been?
is-
Wasn't there a time in the past there was a team that was indicating that there was it Tepper was involved with, like, literally down to play calling, which it was like he was weighing in. It was one of those owners that we all know where he was involved in the game plan, literally.
Oh, good Lord.
I'm gonna look it
I
up
remember
and see if I can
vaguely that
find
story.
this.
Now, he had a lot of things going against him.
You think?
So I don't know if that one got necessarily enough attention, but I believe he was involved with literally like down to a play calling level.
Huh? I don't know.
I don't expect that from Ed Policy.
I would also not expect that.
And I don't think Matt LaFleur would
I
let
just
that
want to
fly.
point out that Hunter looked up owner and involved in game plan, and the first thing to pop up was the game plan featuring The Rock and Madison.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know how Google works. I'm trying to just hit a few
No, I'm not giving you a hard time.
Okay.
I just think it's funny that that's the first result that popped up. So I think, Josh, you might be making up this story. But neither here nor there. Good job, Mark Murphy. We'll talk about him more in the next couple of weeks as we lead up to his official adios from the Green Bay Packers.
Got a story
in the
about
month
Jerry
of July.
Reinsdorf, an owner who thinks he knows everything.
That's Will's favorite guy.
Oh, hey, and then there's Jerry Jones.
There you go. Yeah, well, okay. Enough on that.
I'm glad Google AI is not oftentimes doesn't actually answer what you ask.
You're very anti-AI.
Sure am.
Yeah, it's really bad for the environment.
Yeah.
AI is?
Yeah, because they have to house it in these giant facilities and then
Big-ass warehouses? Sure.
Yeah, and then to cool it, because it's running the water through like the computer system, the water gets poisoned, and then they are connecting to these communities' electrical grids, and then they're siphoning off the electricity. So then, like, the communities are having to burn more coal and things like that.
Here it is.
Yeah, really bad for the
Can't
environment.
believe you doubted me. Tepper is notoriously interfering owner down to play calling. He once handed his OC a piece of paper with a play on it midweek and said he's seen Cleveland run that play this week and he wanted them to run it on Sunday. It was just a random play.
That's amazing. That's the most Madden ownership possible. Hey, they did this. I want to do that. Please do that now. Unbelievable. That's good stuff from David Tepper. All right, we'll get back to the Packers in just a moment. We'll play a little stock up, stock down. We'll get to my top 5 Packers under the most pressure in 2025. But we've put it off all week in terms of checking in on Giannis and where things stand with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Reported earlier this week by Brian Windhorst, there's not a lot of action going on between Giannis and the Bucks and any other NBA teams that could be interested in the services of the two-time MVP and NBA champion Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, that doesn't surprise me. And then Shams Charania, the NBA insider for ESPN, earlier this week on the Pat McAfee show said, yeah, this will probably drag out into August with Giannis Antetokounmpo. If he is to be traded, it won't happen at the draft. It won't happen at free agency. It'll happen in August or before the season starts, if it is to happen. Which is then followed up by a subtweet, we assume, by Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's been electric, by the way, on social media the last few weeks.
Has he?
Why
This is the most active he's been.
Right.
He's been electric.
Okay. Did you say so?
You don't view it that way?
I don't like him entering into this. Everyone's waiting on his decision, and he knows it, and he's toying around
But his
down
decision's
line.
been made.
This is also like the NBA thing. Like Kevin Durant is super active and stuff. Like this is what NBA players do.
I don't think behaving like Kevin Durant online
is something you should strive for.
Right,
I'm not saying that's the goal. I'm just saying this is normal.
Well, you say he's made his decision. Everybody we know who has any knowledge has basically told us, no, that's not the fact.
Well, here's the moral of the point I'm making. Right, is he's made his decision? Is because I don't think he views that.
Then why haven't he and the Milwaukee Bucks come out and said that?
Because he's under contract. They don't need to.
This story's too big for them to not.
You don't think there's going to be some statement of I'm still under contract with the Milwaukee Bucks and I look forward to attempting to win more championships with the team? You don't think we're going to hear that?
I think you'll get that statement when Giannis Antetokounmpo sits down at the podium for Bucks Media Day in October. Right, because he's under contract and he's not going anywhere. Like I've told you, he's not going anywhere the entire time.
I picture that Instagram post from the Bucks account with Giannis on it. They have some partner logo on there, and it says, I'm back. And they are going to get 1 billion clicks.
Were you born yesterday?
As far as I'm aware, no.
What? This is so off from you, this take over here. Yeah. You think there's going to be silence on Giannis until October?
I think he's hit number one. I think he's having fun trolling right now.
Do you want him to be trolling? The last people we saw doing that was Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, and that was fun.
Was that a winning position from them, the one they took?
No.
Okay.
But also, the Bucks aren't in a winning position next season at 25-26, which is, of course, why this is being peddled, and everybody thinks, Giannis is going to leave, or Giannis is going to ask for a trade, or the Bucks are going to move on so they can finally get compensation for him. The thing with the Giannis situation is I think he knows what he's signed up for, and he's okay with it. I think it's as simple as that, right? I think him and John Horst can sit down and game plan what free agency looks like, and they can game plan how they reload and restructure this roster to make sure they continue to be in at least a contending position.
Can we rewind a little bit?
You love rewinding today. Yeah.
You're operating as if all of the potential Giannis going elsewhere is all make-believe and he's not indicated any interest in seeking a potential...
I don't think he's indicated any interest.
So you think all the storylines and all the stuff about him going elsewhere is all made up? You don't think there's any level of truth to the stuff we've heard?
No, so I don't think it's made up from the perspective of there is some truth to the fact of if the Bucks were to move on from him, this would probably be their last great opportunity to get at least good compensation back for Giannis, and in that way the cupboard is not left bare for when he potentially leaves in free agency.
You don't think John Horst and company have to do a sales job for Giannis to remain in Milwaukee?
I don't think they need to give him a full-blown pitch, no, because all they have to do is point at the NBA Cup championship banner they won a few months ago in Fiserv Forum and say, hey, there you go, pal, we're a championship organization.
This is the second time that I've had to hear somebody use the NBA Cup as some reason for the Bucks' success.
Am I the other person?
You and then Wally Lukaczynski yesterday on the Damn Sports Show, trying to give this idea that the NBA Cup actually means something.
I love that. I love that he's using that. That's amazing.
Unless you have some information I don't have, I think you're kind of just closing your mind to the reality of the potential of Giannis leaving. I don't think he ends up leaving. But I think he went into the offseason without Damian Lillard after tearing his Achilles and was considering, is it better for me to move on from the Milwaukee Bucks than it is to stay with them? You're operating as if when they left their meeting, they're like, see you in October. Business as usual, which I don't think is the reality.
Well, we've heard nothing about we've heard nothing about said meeting that was reported by Chris Haynes a couple of weeks ago that was allegedly going to take place. We've heard nothing about it, which makes me think there wasn't a meeting because there's not a need for a meeting.
Was there not a meeting because of maybe things got caught in people's schedule and they denied it? Or was there not a meeting because they didn't need to have a meeting?
Well, I think the meeting portion of this it's normal, right? We've talked about this before where I think when you are a superstar at the caliber of Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is unheard of in professional sports, right? He is in the top 0.1% of superstardom and superstars in professional sports, period, end of sentence. He also is unique because he's one of few that has spent the entirety of his time with the same franchise. So he gets special treatment, right? He gets to have meetings with the general manager. He gets to sign off on when they hire head coaches. He gets to sign off on when they make big trades like moving on from Chris Middleton or acquiring Damian Lillard and moving Drew Holiday, who we won a championship with. He's treated differently. And this goes back to the pitch factor that we've made with Giannis since the season ended a couple months ago, and that is, you will not be treated like you are in Milwaukee anywhere else. And I think he understands that. And yes, I know it's a tough argument to make because it doesn't necessarily work. But the loyalty factor does make sense with Giannis.
Yeah, go ahead, Hunter.
If Giannis goes to Houston, the Houston fans won't treat him the way that he's treated in Milwaukee. The front office will treat him the same exact way the Bucks do. They are going to listen to what he says because he will be their number one player. His treatment doesn't change other than, oh, hey, people in Wisconsin and Milwaukee love Giannis because we saw him grow up and bring a championship.
And if he wins a championship in Houston, he'll be right in line with how he was treated in Milwaukee.
He'll get 2 statues once he finally hangs it up. One in Houston, one in Milwaukee.
Right.
But I think the difference from the front office perspective is there's a learning curve elsewhere. There's not here.
That learning curve is he sits down and says, hey, this is kind of how I like to operate. This is who I am as a person. These are the type of players I like to play with, and I feel like complement my game the best.
Listen to how you're speaking about Giannis. You're speaking about Giannis as if he's a diva, which he's not. He's a superstar, but he's not a diva.
Strouf, hang on. A year ago, you moved from the Madison office to the Milwaukee office.
Yes.
When you got to Milwaukee, did you have a meeting with your new manager about the type of teammate you are, the way you like to be managed, the way that things work for you? Did you meet with the KBN guys and talk about how you work as a producer and things like that?
Not really. I mean, I think I just sat down and said, I'm a dog and I'm going to bring you championships,
so
just like Giannis can.
You think the superstar who hired a coach that they then had to fire early into the season doesn't have the tendency to be a diva or have things the way he likes them?
I think. Well, hold on. Those are two different questions.
I think you're putting a very positive spin on something you would call diva behavior elsewhere because you like and know Giannis.
No, I don't. I think if anybody acted the way Giannis does.
We'll fundamentally disagree on that because when you are as valuable and as important to a singular franchise, you realize how much your presence makes literally the value of the franchise go up. And a mausoleum being built for you in the Fiserv Forum, he knows that's there because he's there.
Correct.
So when you can override what your organization wants to hire as a head coach,
right?
What is that?
Not a diva.
Not a diva, but
generational superstar.
But if somebody else were to do that and be a shot caller, you would call them a
Nope.
Are you just afraid of the word diva?
No,
because that's like what they all are. That's what it is.
Prima donnas. No, look, I think it's as simple as this with Giannis. I just think he's different than everybody else. And I don't think that's because he's a Milwaukee Buck. He can play for the Indiana Pacers. He can play for the New York Knicks. He can play for
might as well talk to the wall. There's no getting through to him.
He's different than everybody else.
Strouf, people that get that good at anything have to have a level of self-centeredness and diva-ness to them. Because you are going to sacrifice so many other things to put in the work to get that good.
Right, but Giannis understands the best situation for him is still in Milwaukee, despite the fact that it might not lead to a championship next season. Because if you get traded to Houston, John Horst will rip every single asset they have away from them, and they will become Milwaukee's assets. And then Giannis all of a sudden is in a worse situation than he was in Milwaukee in terms of competing for a championship. That's why it has always made the most sense for him just to return to Milwaukee next year. Hope they can do a couple of things like they did last season, right? They add a guy like Kevin Porter Jr., who played a nice role down the stretch. They have a guy in a veteran minimum like Gary Trent Jr., who was really, really crucial for them towards the end of the season and even into the postseason despite the early round exit. His best opportunity to compete for championships for the foreseeable future is still in Milwaukee, and I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out. No Houston pun intended there. the moral of the story with Giannis is I don't think they need to grovel as much as everybody else thinks they need to. The Milwaukee Bucks being they in this context. They don't need to pitch Giannis. They don't need to grovel to Giannis. They don't need to sell Giannis on coming back to Milwaukee as much as everybody is saying they need to. And that's to the earlier point on why I think it led to a subtweet of Shams Charania saying that there might not be a decision made until August, because I think the decision's already been made that Giannis isn't going anywhere.
Then why not announce it?
Because I don't think you need to. He's under contract.
So even though every national show has talked about Giannis,
I think even if they announce it, that's still going to happen.
Except it literally stopped at the last time that we had this conversation.
So if John Horst's phone rings, I'm not saying he doesn't answer, but I don't think the phone call lasts very long. I think he says, hello, who's this? And they say, this is so-and-so from Houston, or this is so-and-so from Minnesota.
By the way, when John Horst's phone rings, he already knows who's calling. That's getting pushed through to somebody else first.
That's a good point.
To screen that.
Good point by you. Good point by you.
We already know there was a planned meeting. I think this is maybe the most irrational I've heard you be in an on-air capacity in the history of your career. And I'm
irrational. What am I being irrational about?
You are speaking not as an analyst, as a pure fan. This is, I don't think, have you?
You've never talked about the Packers this way.
Wow.
It is, either we have to fully disagree that when there was a meeting scheduled by Chris Hayes that he was flat lying. That's step one. Step two,
I don't know if that's the case.
I haven't gotten around the fact of Giannis is just different than everybody else. Why? Because I think so.
Is there any chance that Giannis is just really good at PR and could just be able to sell that? Yeah, I'm this different guy. I'm just kind of fun.
Well, I think it's more than that.
You've been accused of being a Packers toad. You're mega toad, mega Giannis toad.
Ribbit.
That got to a point where I didn't think I was speaking to somebody who was feeling well.
You think I'm sick?
Yeah.
Whoa.
You got a brain fever. That was unbelievable. You went on a 5-minute diatribe about what was that?
The truth, Josh. And you can't handle the truth.
I mean, it might be, like Aaron Rodgers has his truth, and then there's the truth. We just got Alex Strouf's truth. That was what that was. That was unbelievable.
Thanks, Joshy. Appreciate that.
Not a compliment.
You said it was unbelievable. I'm going to take it as a compliment. Stephen A. Smith earlier today, first take on ESPN, knocking Giannis a little bit. By the way, the tweet that Giannis tweeted out earlier this week was, does anybody else miss Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski, who held Shams Charania's job prior to Shams Charania? So taking a little shot at Shams saying this is going to drag out. I read that as there's nothing happening, right? Why else is Giannis tweeting that?
I think
maybe he had a good relationship with Woj, doesn't have the same one with Shams, because that job is all about relationships.
I also think Shams is in an interesting spot where, with his new job with ESPN, he's asked to be on TV and to say a lot more than Adrian Wojnarowski was because of their status within the company.
The money ESPN's paying
right,
them.
And the way things went. So there is a part of me that recognizes I think Shams is not necessarily making up stuff, but he's saying the same thing in a new way to make it seem, and then to build the news cycle and then to have a conversation around it. I just think there's a potential difference in the way those two are asked to be in.
Real quick, I just got a text. I need to pivot for a moment.
Yep.
Actually, I got this text about a half an hour ago, but I just saw it. This is from Chad, who we referenced earlier, who was here at Door County Distillery with us. He texted me, just had a fan of ESPN Wisconsin come up and immediately recognized Hunter as the Gerald Ford trivia guy.
Yes! I'm more famous than both of you.
That is an impressive and hyper niche thing
real
to be
quick,
recognized for.
Did you think Gerald Ford would play as pivotal of a role in your career as it has?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's similar to me and the mock NFL combine I ran a couple months back, and that has been pretty much anytime I talk to anybody, it's brought up.
Yep.
Is Gerald Ford brought up that often for you?
It has now because of Wilde and Tausch. Jason Wilde came to the Madison office to visit and found somewhere a Gerald Ford bobblehead. And he gave it to me, and it's now on my desk.
That's terrific. I really like that. That seemed unnecessary, Josh.
Gerald Ford has unlocked a new level to my career that I didn't expect, and it's getting to the point where I owe a lot to Gerald Ford.
May God bless his soul.
Yes. Now, if you could, which president? Obviously, Gerald Ford has brought you fame and success.
Yep.
But
I'm more famous than the two of you.
If you could have chosen which president to be attached to, who would you change it to?
Ooh, good question.
Ooh, okay. So
LBJ.
I'm a huge nerd.
Teddy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, really, Gerald
In case
Ford?
anybody didn't know, I find Richard Nixon incredibly fascinating.
You like a little Watergate action?
Well, the Watergate stuff. Also, as a president, he was actually really progressive. He had the most diverse cabinet of any president. He signed Title IX, the Clean Air and Water Act, the EPA, very progressive president. So I'm a big Richard Nixon fan. Just tried to subvert the Constitution and use the FBI as his personal police.
I don't know if "fan's" the word to be using.
No, it's just I am a fan of his the way that history remembers him, and the story of Richard Nixon. Otherwise, honestly,
FDR.
That's where I thought you were going to go.
No, I feel like you got to go with one of the classics. Actually, Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, great first name.
Yes, great name. Great part of U.S. history.
I wish people were referred to more often as first name, middle initial, last name. I don't have a middle initial, so that's troublesome to me, and maybe that's me doing some wishful thinking here.
Hunter W. Vaughn.
Yeah, it brings a certain panache.
What's your middle name?
I don't have one.
He just said.
I literally just.
I'm taking these away. You need to listen more. This is your show, and you're not listening.
I was able to do that puzzle, undo it dozens of times.
I put it back together, but I can't get it apart now.
That's why it's a puzzle.
I love puzzles, man. All right, we're going to skip Stephen A. Let's get back to the Green Bay Packers. A couple of things I want to get to. Stock up, stock down. We do this each and every Monday following Packers games, or I guess day after Packers games. It'll be a Friday after they play the Commanders on September 11th. We will do it on a Friday today. It's mandatory minicamp in the books, just over about a month away from training camp, a little over a month away from training camp beginning in Green Bay. So you always have to take the headlines with a little bit of a grain of salt. Let's start with stock up for stock up, stock down of mandatory minicamp. Let's start with Lucas Van Ness, the former first-round pick out of Iowa. Seemingly mixing around a little bit. They're trying him inside, using him outside. He's gotten stronger. He understands the defense a little bit more. And Joshy even had a pro LVN tweet this week on the play that Jordan Love connected with McCole Hard for a 74-yard touchdown on the final play of practice. LVN was so deep in Jordan Love's grill that it ultimately would have been a very elusive sack that it has been in LVN's career.
Rare.
So Lucas Van Ness stock up, Joshy, out of mandatory minicamp, but again, take it with a grain of salt.
His stock has to go up because it couldn't be lower. If he were to go down further, he wouldn't be a member of the Packers.
Sometimes you got to get those penny stocks.
Yes.
You got to diversify a little bit.
We're buying at the floor. It is probably the least convicted I could be on a stock up if you were to come up with thousands of them. Yes, he seemed to on one specific play. I don't know who he was going against. He didn't have pads on. Yes, he did seem to be in Jordan Love's face and probably should have gotten a sack for that. But I think you could also, just as much as you put in a positive spin on him making a play there, you could put a negative spin on the fact that he's been so ineffective at his position. His coach and GM have said maybe we should try him at defensive line or defensive tackle instead of edge.
We also got a very subtle he's in the best shape of his life tweet from the Packers where they posted a picture of him, and it was as he was in the middle of a drill and clearly a little touched up too to make him look incredibly muscular. And I know he's a very fit guy, but that was without actually saying he's in the best shape of his life. Hey, look at how ripped this guy is.
Until I see a professional NFL team in a regular season game not choose to block him with the tight end, his stock's going to stay at a penny stock for me.
Well, I mean, if he's playing inside, that'd be really tough to do now. So week 1, you're going to be wrong.
I think they're just going to say play him everywhere and hopefully something works.
Stock down goes to a free agency addition this year. Nate Hobbs stock down. He's a guy that's battled a lot of injuries in his career. Now coming into Green Bay during his time in Las Vegas, and again he wound up with the rehab group. It was a light injury. Obviously, they take a lot of precaution in mandatory minicamp. Stock down strictly from the perspective of we didn't get to see a lot of Nate Hobbs, and once again dealing with a, albeit slight, an injury which he dealt a lot with in Las Vegas. Just fingers crossed he can stay healthy come the regular season, Josh.
I think his stock is up because Jair Alexander was cut. I think the fact that that thing is not even an issue anymore, he's going to be relied on. When you have a guy who even has a hangnail that you just paid free agent money, you're going to play the cautious route. They're not wearing pads. It is basically install and basic level stuff that they're doing right now. I'm not too worried.
I mean, I'll buy in Strouf on the stock down.
I like it.
Because
we've got buyers.
When you're a new player to a team, you need every rep you can get to get on the same page with everybody else.
The new defensive system.
Yeah, he needs those reps, so even if they are being cautious and it's not something that's actually going to matter long term, like those reps still matter. Actually being out there on the field matters. He needs every bit that he can get.
I only have one more for each category, and it's the same person.
Okay.
I have both
Nobody like you, baby.
That's true that, brother. I have a stock up. I think it'll make sense. I have a stock up and a stock down for Bo Melton. Stock up for quarterback Bo Melton. Stock down for wide receiver Bo Melton, as he's been playing both. Over at ESPN.com, Rob Demovsky has a deep dive into Bo Melton playing both positions. He's not playing one or the other. He is playing both. The Green Bay Packers have their own Travis Hunter, and his name is Bo Melton. I got through that without laughing. Props to me. Bo Melton.
You kind of Mark Murphy giggled as you said it, though.
Yeah, and it's also when you have to say props to me. Like, you can just do it and move on.
Me and Mark Murphy have a little bit in common.
A lot of it.
We both laugh at our own jokes too much. Bo Melton, stock up and stock down.
I think you are disrespecting the spirit of the game of stock up, stock down here.
Oh, wow. I'm disrespecting the spirit of a game I created.
I think this is a disgrace. I'm disappointed in you. And I think anybody who is now closer to being cut than on the team has to have their stock down.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think he's as close to being cut as maybe you think.
I think he's...
If they are making the concerted effort they are to find a role for Bo Melton.
You know the last player to do this and change positions?
In Green Bay?
Yeah.
Ty Montgomery would be my guess?
Alex Magoo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He went from quarterback to wide receiver. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also Alex Magoo wasn't going to make the roster to begin with.
Are we sure? Are we sure Bo Melton is?
I'm not. I can't say with absolute certainty.
You don't try guys at other positions who have secure.
But here's the thing. Correct, and I agree with you on that. But they are very much pouring cold water on the idea of him not being a wide receiver anymore. Right? Like, they're saying he absolutely still is a wide receiver. He's just also a cornerback. Here's why I think...
Well, they have to say that because if Malik Heath or Dontavian Wicks goes down with an injury in training camp, they need a wide receiver.
But the part I find really fascinating about this whole Bo Melton situation is they are making the concerted effort to find a role for him, and they have praised his efforts on special teams. They have praised his efforts on offense, obviously, at that big game on New Year's Eve against Minnesota a couple of years back now, the 2023 season towards the end of the year. Had the Bo Melton game, it was nicknamed, in Green Bay's big win at Minnesota on New Year's Eve. I still think there's a case to make for Bo Melton to make the roster. I just don't think it's as a star wide receiver nor a star cornerback. It's likely more of a special teams role. And again, he's probably guy like 51 or 52.
This is like your Giannis take level of like, you're being a toad right now, but it's for Bo Melton, and I don't get it.
I like Bo Melton a lot. So,
you haven't made that clear.
But hold on a minute. Let's keep in mind, Who is Bo Melton's brother? Okay, that would be Max Melton. Who is Max Melton? Max Melton is a starting cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals. You're telling me they didn't have a little good back and forths in the backyard back in the day? Max covering Bo, Bo covering Max, NFL quality players? I'm just saying, I think maybe the guy
Bo
can make
Melton
the switch.
is as fringe of an NFL quality player as you could imagine.
Yeah, this is literally just we like you as your effort and the guy you are in the locker room.
Yep.
Let's maybe see if this works. If it works, we look like geniuses. If it doesn't, you're gone. Whatever. It doesn't matter. That's all this is.
What would you put as the percent odds that Bo Melton is on the Green Bay Packers roster
Great question.
at the end of the season?
End of the season.
Because I think you can make a case for, yes, they can find, and I'm not talking practice squad, because there's a very good chance he ends up on a practice squad.
Right, but then is he elevated by the end of the season?
He has to be, the last game, he has to be on the starting, like on the active roster. Will he be active week 15, 16, or 17 as a piece they're using as a special teamers?
57%.
You're over half. I'm closer to 25.
I was going to say like 15.
Yeah.
I don't know if he makes it through the preseason.
So this is a desperation play in both of your minds.
Yeah.
With Bo Melton.
Yeah. I don't think
Does it tell you anything about the cornerback room, though?
No.
Okay. I don't think so either. It has absolutely nothing to do with
I know
the release
people
of
wanted
Jair.
to interpret it as
Yeah.
that. I do not.
I mean, at most, it's just the fact that, like, I think they see it as, like, that's their weakest position group on the defense, or thinnest.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, like, that, it makes sense for the transition.
Well, the problem is, besides the three guys that we think are going to be starters at some level, no one has NFL experience, like, at all. So there is at least a, hey, if we need somebody who knows what it's like to be an NFL football player and knows what it's like to get ready on game day, and you're still going to need a gunner if you decide he's a CB that week or not, and all he does is play in, like, very specific situations and help on special teams, then yeah, I guess I could see him there. I don't see him catching many passes or running many routes for the Packers.
I tend to agree.
If he does, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Things have gone wrong.
Can I ask you the same question you just asked me on Bo Melton with McCole Hardman?
I have no idea what to think of him
I don't
at this
either.
point.
I don't either. This week was weird for him. Stock up, by the way, from McCole
I
Hardman.
think he became expendable the moment Savion Williams and Matthew Golden
Yeah,
got
but then
drafted.
did you hear when he was asked about the Packers drafting those guys? He was, like, amped about it.
I think that's just being a good
He's a good
teammate.
teammate.
A guy who was cut
Veteran,
a guy who was cut last year from the New York Jets and then signed on with the Chiefs, but then didn't contribute much. I think that's just a guy who recognizes where his career is at, and he's got to be a good teammate.
Some cleanup on the YouTube comments section, as I've done a horrible job the last 90 minutes reading those. Chef Ed, to go back to our Jacob Miserowski conversation, and his cramp said, Jacob Miserowski needs to eat some bananas. Potassium.
That is
Good health tip there from Chef Ed.
Yeah.
Also, just drinking water ahead of time.
DRGN chimes in, says, dang, Josh and Hunter defending Shams like he's Giannis. It's facts.
I don't know if I was defending
No,
Shams.
certainly weren't.
Ellie chimes in, says, hey, guys, I'm happy for Aaron Rodgers. Seems like he's done a lot of reflection. I would say that's accurate. In his ayahuasca camps and his darkness retreats, doing lots of reflection. Also, congratulations to Aaron Rodgers and Brittany with an I, confirming their wedded bliss this week in Pittsburgh. Nobody else is clapping, okay? We're not happy for Aaron Rodgers and Brittany?
It's on brand that it's Brittany with an I.
Yeah, not Britney Spears, as he said on the Pat McAfee show last year. But Brittany with an I and Aaron Rodgers, wedded bliss. Very happy for Aaron. You happy for him, Joshy?
Nope.
Being Aaron Rodgers' biggest hater?
Nope, not happy for him.
That's very rude of you.
Yeah, this might be a line that you're crossing
This is a big step in his life. He's a married man.
There's nothing more Aaron Rodgers than being like, oh, I don't want people in my personal life, and then I show up to training camp with a wedding ring on, which not a lot of NFL
I was just about to
players
point
do,
that out.
And then going, why are you guys asking me about this?
But then, so what should he have done? Just not worn the
Well,
ring?
football
and then...
players don't wear rings on the field. I think that's a fair point by Josh. I'll give
Yeah,
him that.
I know, but like it just feels like you're like saying, oh, he should have posted something first, but then he's drawing the attention that way. Like it feels like for this situation, there was no way Aaron Rodgers could have done something to win in your eyes, Josh.
No, just be normal about it. Say I got married to the woman I just wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and I don't know, the 15 podcasts he's done since he played an NFL game.
Joe Rogan would have been the spot to do it.
True.
We're talking about random conspiracy theories. He goes, oh, by the way, Joe, I'm married now.
He had perfect opportunity to mention it on whoever. I mean, I'm seeing clips of him from podcasts. I don't know if we're last week or 2 years ago.
You sure you're not getting got with the AI ones? I've seen a few of those.
He's not hesitant to talk and let his feelings be known on virtually everything, despite his expertise. I think your own personal life you should be an expert on.
Fair point.
It's just an Aaron Rodgers way of doing things.
Daily Dodge TV says, no love for Rutherford B. Hayes, Hunter?
I mean, great name, great facial hair. Just don't know much about the policy stuff. I'm a policy guy.
He's a policy wonk.
And policy guy. Yeah. Got it. And then Ben and Madison with a simple LFG. All right, couple of things to do before we get to what we learned / missed, which, of course, is presented by our friends here at Door County Distillery. More lists for me, Josh. You ready?
Okay.
I've got 5 Green Bay Packers who I think are under the most pressure in 2025, right? The expectation for the Packers, obviously, championships. That's Brian Gutekunst said at locker cleanout following the playoff loss in January to the Philadelphia Eagles, it's time we start competing for championships around here. So I certainly think this is the year that these guys are under the most pressure. We start with number 5 on my list. That is wide receiver Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs on a contract year. Likely won't be back in Green Bay in 2026, but can he play himself into a reasonable and a solid contract situation in 2026, whether that be in Green Bay or elsewhere? Still going to have the opportunity to be a big piece in this wide receiving core, which has obviously added a couple of weapons, which includes the aforementioned Matthew Golden and Savion Williams in the draft, McCole Hardman in free agency, and obviously still dealing with the guys that are a year younger than him and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. It's a crowded room, but Romeo Doubs has been a crucial piece in that wide receiver room the last several years, dating back to when Aaron Rodgers was still the starting quarterback in Green Bay. He's on a contract year. He's had a weird year between concussions and skipping work in 2024. I think Romeo Doubs is the 5th Packer under the most pressure in 2025.
I'm having a hard time figuring in my head a guy who I've totally written off that's probably going to be a bigger contributor than the level of which seriousness I take his future in Green Bay. I think the best case I can make for him is proving himself to a degree that he can go earn a contract elsewhere other than Green Bay, and that is a lot to play for. Now, will he be able to do that for 17 games? Will he be able to show up? Will he be able to avoid injury? Because he did not want to talk about the concussions that he had at the end of last season, which I guess I understand, but also sort of something that, like, people are concerned about and are a factor. I think the signing of Matthew Golden was the last time Romeo Doubs or the drafting really needed to matter. I think they view him as a massive upgrade at that position.
Agreed.
And whatever they get from him this season is good, and they wish him the best in the future.
So whatever it is, it's gravy in your mind.
Yeah.
Which I think could end up being the situation, but I think that's what puts him under pressure, right? Because if he doesn't become a key contributor to this Packers offense, he's getting picked up for pennies.
Yeah, it's more for his personal finances
rather than it is
checkbook.
for the Green Bay Packers.
But I don't think what he's done in his past has made him like a do not touch type of guy. He could certainly earn himself some money, but he's also good enough for a team to go, we could use you as a 3rd, 4th option, and we'd be okay with it.
And he's also, like, his touches is going to be so limited for him. So he's going to have a ton of pressure.
It could not be also.
Well, but, like, we've talked about, I mean, obviously Tucker Kraft is going to get a lot of looks in the passing game. If Musgrave is healthy, he's going to get a lot. Oh, my gosh. Matthew Golden, they're going to be trying to get the ball to him. Jaden Reed. So you're already, at best, number 5 of passing options for this offense. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy who, like you guys were just saying, is looking to figure out what is my future in the NFL going to look like.
It's well said. Let's go to number 4, the Packer under the most pressure in 2025. This is where I put the head coach, Matt LaFleur, number 4 on this list. And it's more about obviously, the postseason, he needs to get the big win, right? He hasn't had a huge win in the postseason. Obviously, that nice win on the road at Dallas a couple of years ago was a really nice feather in the cap for Matt LaFleur and especially Jordan Love. But I think it's more about the regular season this year for Matt LaFleur. Last year, 1-5 in NFC North play. Would have been 0-6 if it wasn't for the fingertip of Carl Brooks, which also would have led to them not making the playoffs, might I add, at 10-7, but ultimately end up 11-6 and in the dance last year. I think Matt LaFleur, with the investment put into the offense this year, each of the first three-round picks, three rounds, went offense for Brian Gutekunst in the NFL draft. They invest in the offensive line by signing Aaron Banks. They obviously try to upgrade the wide receiver position. You have healthy tight ends. You will have a healthy Marshawn Lloyd to back up Josh Jacobs in the backfield. Matt LaFleur's got a ton of weapons at his disposal. And for a guy that is renowned as an offensive genius and one of the more creative play callers in the National Football League, it's put up or shut up time for Matt LaFleur in 2025. I have Matt LaFleur as number 4 of the Packers under the most pressure.
I don't know how much under pressure I can put somebody who's a year away from questions being asked about his future employment. I think he has pressure to help his quarterback, to bring his young wide receivers together and to make the offense look more cohesive. But I think he has a track record enough, especially with the design of and not having the necessary meddlesome owner. No, Tom Thibodeau is going to come in and fire you and then start interviewing random coaches across the NFL that already have employment. I think there's pressure on him as much as there would be for any head coach who has a team that's been on the precipice of Super Bowls and not made it. But I view him as pretty secure in employment, and there's enough people who believe in his abilities as a head coach that I think 4 is fine, but the pressure is, to me, more internal.
I'm just going to say, because Josh said everything that I would have said there, I'm proud that you didn't go with the cop-out and just throw him at number 2 and then have number 1 be Jordan Love. So that's good growth from you, Strouf.
Thank you.
Didn't take the lazy way out with this.
That's true, but we still got 3 more to go.
I'm trying. I can change that take. I'm just...
I think this one you guys will agree with. Number 3, I have last year's first-round pick, Jordan Morgan. They're going to put him in a position in training camp to succeed and ultimately win a starting job on the offensive line. Likely left tackle, could be right guard, but it will be one of those 2 positions. If Jordan Morgan is not starting there in 2025, number 1, sound the freaking alarms, because that is a problem for a guy you invested a first-round pick in. But number 2, it's just another knock on Brian Gutekunst's drafting ability and talent evaluation ability if Jordan Morgan in year 2 cannot crack a starting lineup on the offensive line in 2025. It's as simple as that for me. Jordan Morgan is Packer number 3.
I think that's fair. I think he didn't have a season he expected, and when you have the first-round draft moniker, you're always going to be under added pressure. I think you could put Matthew Golden in the same spot and kind of say the same exact thing without the year of experience and maybe letdown, where fans are going to be looking for him and his teammates are going to be looking for him to contribute. So I think it's sort of the same conversation, just slightly tweaked. But, yeah, you don't want your 23rd overall pick to be your swing tackle. That's not – and I even think there's a degree of, if you start him at right guard, you're wondering, was he worth that pick he was picked at to be a right guard? You know, like I don't think it should be that conversation, because I think the guard position has ballooned in terms of both importance and salary level. You can do great by having a guard in the first round. You just have to be great. So I think there's a level to prove himself that he can beat out a guy who is now entering his 3rd year of competition, Rasheed Walker, and he keeps knocking off every single competitor. So
it's a great point by you.
You've got a guy there who has a track record of, and it seems like the Packers have told us with their actions, they think they can upgrade at that left tackle position, but every guy they bring in to take it from him, he says, not this year, buddy. I'm the starting left tackle.
And that's what fascinates me. Again, Rasheed Walker was probably an honorable mention on this list for me, because he's in a contract year. if he wins the starting left tackle job, all of a sudden the Packers are clicking the panic button a little bit, I think. Because that might be another offensive lineman they need to sign. Is Zach Tom also in a contract here? And, oh, yeah, by the way, so is Sean Ryan. So a ton of questions to figure out after this season on the offensive line. But the good news is we got a lot of season left because it hasn't even started yet. Number 2 on this list, you knew the name was going to be here, right? Jordan Love, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers.
I know we want to have a conversation about this. I think you need to tell us what 1 is first, because for anyone to be under more pressure than Jordan Love, the conversation nationally, like a week ago, was has he gotten worse? Has he regressed?
Yeah, there were literally conversations on Unsportsmanlike about which NFC North quarterback is under the most, and he got brought up as number 1.
It's Jordan Love. I mean, he probably, in terms of the impact of the team, obviously is number 1 on this list. I more viewed the creation of this list from the scope of will they be here in 2026 if they don't perform, right? If the Packers go 4-13, I have a hard time believing they'd retain Matt LaFleur. I mean, unless, it's an injury thing, right? If Jordan Love goes down right away and then you go 4-13, maybe it's a different conversation. But I view it from a long-term solution perspective. Jordan Love will be here in 2026, whether he's awful or great. I just think, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's number 1 here.
It's Quay Walker, the linebacker. I think he can go from either, a guy you're okay with walking away, they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on him, or he could elevate to one of the best linebackers in the NFL. If he's healthy, you have the opportunity for the Packers linebacking crew to be one of the best in the NFL.
Are you drinking too much of the Kool-Aid of me saying that the linebacker core is one of the better ones in the league?
Yes, it was one of your best statements recently. I have Quay Walker as the Packer under most pressure in 2020.
Okay, I need to clarify what I was thinking with that statement.
Had a lot more to do with Edrin Cooper.
Yes, one Edrin Cooper, plus I think Isaiah McDuffie, along with Quay Walker, I think as a unit, they, as a group, working with, if you're going to be putting 2 linebackers out there for the majority of the game, I think you're going to constantly have a really, really good group out there. It wasn't just I think Quay Walker is going to be one of the best in the league. Athletically, I think he's up there. But he makes a lot of weird decisions.
Josh doesn't like my list.
I find it interesting. I find it hard to put the pressure on. Jordan Love contractually is going to be
but Quay Walker's the green dot guy defensively. He's one of your starting linebackers. He's obviously another guy that you've had heavy investment in as a former first-round pick.
But isn't Edrin Cooper being so good inherently make him less valuable?
I think if there is a world in which you can have both of those guys on the field together for the foreseeable future, this year is the year to prove it, because obviously you will have to sign Quay Walker to a contract, and that will determine what the middle of your defense looks like for the foreseeable future. And I think that's why there's so much pressure on him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've heard Jason Wilde talk about Quay Walker, he doesn't need any additional pressure put on him. He seems to be his own biggest critic and apply plenty of pressure, and even when he has good games, he likes to point out the things he didn't do so well specifically.
Right.
I fundamentally disagree with the way you constructed this list, but I understand why. I also think he's closer to a lock of getting an extension in the season than he is to not being a Packer in 2026.
I agree with you on that.
Because I think...
But what if he comes out and he just hasn't?
I mean, if he sucks, then they go, well, we saved ourselves some money, and we'll go back right into the draft. We have Isaiah McDuffie. We drafted Colin Oliver. We've got Edrin Cooper, who, if he takes a next step, you're more than happy. The type of guy we saw at the end of last season in Edrin Cooper is the type of guy that single-handedly will elevate them into like a top 10 or 12 linebacking core just because they have one guy who's that good. So the pressure on him is to perform, get another contract, all of that. But it becomes a lot easier when you have just an absolute freak next to you who's going to be getting after the ball, making sacks, forcing fumbles, like that stuff. I think that can help Quay Walker and actually make his job easier.
Hunter, final thought on this.
He's also in a spot where, because of how good Jeff Hafley is as a DC and how creative he is, he's just going to be put out in the field in spots where he's going to succeed at a level, and they can move him out of the field in spots where, like, oh man, he's not great on 3rd and long, so it's a 3rd and 12 here, get him off the field. You're not going to see him make a mistake because they have a good coach in front of him. So I think he's got a spot where he can just look really great because he's not on the field in spots where he can look bad.
What? time now for what we learned, what we missed, which is, of course, presented by our friends where we are today at Door County Distillery. Locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County right here in Carlsville. As I always tell you, if you're coming up to Door County, you got to stop in Carlsville at Door County Distillery, just past Sturgeon Bay here. You got to do the tours. You got to do the tastings. You got to see some of the exclusive product. I mentioned some of it earlier. You've got a ton of specialty bourbons here on display on the video stream today. I know what I'm taking home today, and that will be the maple finished bourbon, which you can only pick up here at Door County Distillery because it is a limited release. But all of the other stuff that's with us right now, you can get it all over the state of Wisconsin. Milwaukee, Madison, Stevens Point, Green Bay, wherever you are, you can get the cherry brandy from Door County Distillery to mix it up in your old fashions. How about the single malt whiskey, the 27-time gold medal award winning single malt whiskey right here you can pick up all over the state. You've got cherry flavored rum infused with Door County Distillery, Door County cherries in the Door County Distillery cherry flavored rum. And right here's my baby, my personal favorite, the bourbon from Door County Distillery, my absolute favorite, and that you can get all over the state. Check out their website, doorcountydistillery.com. You can find the retailer nearest to a really cool, unique tool on their website where you can pick the product. If it's the bourbon whiskey, you type in your zip code, it'll tell you the store that is the closest to you, as well as a ginormous, Joshy, list. Ginormous list of unique cocktail recipes. We walked in here at Door County Distillery earlier today, and Beth said to me, she said, Alex, I got 4 new recipes I need you to try after the show. I said, you got it, Beth. We'll get that done with Door County Distillery. All right, what we learned, what we missed time. We start in the Grubel offices, one call that's all studio in downtown Milwaukee, with Will Summers. Will, what vocabulary did you learn from the show today?
All right, we got 3 today. My first word is adorned, to enhance the appearance of, especially with beautiful objects. I am adorned by the powerful wits of the Mr. Irrelevant Army.
Adorned is typically like attaching jewels to stuff, or wearing
or bottles of bourbon to the table.
We are adorned in all the wonderful Door County Distillery products here.
What? All right, the hullabaloo. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
you did. Yep.
A loud commotion, fuss, or uproar often caused by excitement or anger. There is a lot of hullabaloo among Milwaukee.
One more time. Hold on. Say that word again.
There is a lot of hullabaloo among Milwaukee fans about Giannis trade talks.
That's true.
Yeah, accurate.
What?
2 for 2.
And then I have stock his coffers. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
stuff your coffers.
Coffers refers to money or funds, so I can deduct, nice word, that stocking one's coffers means to garner, nice word again, money or funds.
Hell of a performance by Will today. What? Very good. All right, fellas, what did we learn? What did we miss?
We haven't talked about it yet, but this Shamar Stewart situation in Cincinnati.
Yeah, kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, Shamar Stewart, edge rusher from Texas A&M. He gets drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round. The Bengals are trying to pull a fast one on him and change the language of one of the clauses in his contract. So normal rookie contracts, there's not a lot of movement for money. But what teams will do is if, say, your first-round pick gets hurt early in the year, they then lose for that year the guaranteed money of the season. It's a way to help the teams protect themselves. The Bengals are trying to make that over the course of the entire 4-year contract. And Shamar Stewart's like, no, I'm not doing that. So he's like, okay, bye. He has left the team facility yesterday. He's just not with the team. So literally his options now are either they figure this out and they change that clause. He could sit out the entire year, reclassify for the 2026 draft, and then the Bengals can't draft him. He could go to the UFL or the CFL, but then the Bengals hold his contract for the next 3 years. Or he could try and go back to college because he has another year of eligibility.
I was just about to ask about that.
But he would have to – it would probably turn into him suing the NCAA for his eligibility to come back, which would be a really difficult thing to do with the college football season starting in August.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the Bengals aren't going to ever achieve what they need to with Mike Brown. He put in these clauses that he did not include in the same contracts that were given to the other first-round picks of Marius Mims. This is how bad teams stay bad. There's no reason to be in this fight. It makes no sense. It is consternation for consternation's fact. I would love this to go against the Bengals so I could laugh at them. But this is the type of thing that if I were a fan there, I'd be picketing outside of their offices.
What we learned, Bengals dumpster fire.
Yes.
And it just continues this offseason. What we missed.
I've got one really quick here.
Is this a miss or a learn?
Maybe it's a miss. Maybe it's a learn. It's a move that I am envious of.
Go ahead.
A Kentucky man was arrested after allegedly releasing a raccoon into a bar that kicked him out. He said, You kick me out? Well, guess who I'm letting in? A raccoon. Now you guys deal with it. Which is a very
good
funny
play.
Like, did he happen?
Skunk would have been better.
Did he happen upon a raccoon upon exiting, or was it planned where he said, I'm going
Anybody that crosses me, I've got the perfect get-back idea.
You know he's got a raccoon guy.
Was it a pet raccoon, or is it a wild raccoon that he live trapped and then opened and tossed into the bar?
Second.
I mean, imagine how exciting your night would get if you're saddled up at the bar enjoying some Door County Distillery and a raccoon gets released. That's an electric night.
I just feel bad for Rob from Door County Distillery, who'd inevitably have to wrangle the raccoon.
Not here. No raccoons here.
That's one way to serve revenge up.
Yeah.
I like that. Last thing, what we missed, the Badgers on probation following recruiting violations in 2023 that was officially brought down yesterday. Two members of the staff, Greg Scruggs, who is now a coach for the 49ers, and then Max Steinecker, who is now, where is he now, Hunter? He's at another college. I know he left Wisconsin. The former director of player personnel, essentially, or the
USC.
USC, that's right. That's exactly where he is. Max Steinecker is gone. Now, they have both been suspended for a year. Scruggs, it won't impact at all now that he's in the NFL. But the Badgers now put on probation for recruiting violations. So what we learned/missed is that the Badgers not only are very bad now, is that they also are doing illegal things. Fantastic. Makes you feel good ahead of the college football season.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know we were still doing the recruiting infractions thing since
with the NIL, right?
Right, it's turned into such a lawless land where teams are obviously recruiting players who are under scholarship and luring them away with guarantees of money. Which is illegal, right?
Yeah, but a part of this was the fact that they were making phone calls when they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it was 130 of them. And then the school, their oversight group, saw it. And,
self-report?
Yep.
Self-snitching?
But had they not, and then the NCAA found out, this would have been worse.
Yeah.
So, they did the right thing here, and now they're on probation for the year. It's the $25,000 fine. So, hey, this is Midwest nice. This is what we do in the Midwest. We don't cheat like teams in the South like to do.
We tell on ourselves when we attempt to cheat. That's even better.
No, when they realize, oh wait, we broke this rule, we shouldn't have done this. We're gonna fess up to it. We're gonna own our mistake. We're gonna be honest about things. We're not gonna try and hide this like other schools in the SEC might do, because it means more.
That will do it for us today. A big thanks to our friends right here at Door County Distillery for hosting us, as always, and adorning our table with some terrific products, including my favorite, the bourbon from Door County Distillery.
Back home with some more Door County Distillery.
I've got a list of things I need to bring back, so I'm going to visit the store here.
We're going to go shopping here at Door County Distillery, as you should all summer long. If you're coming up to Door County, make sure you stop in, do the tours, do the tastings, check out the exclusive product only available here at Door County Distillery. And if you're not coming to Door County, bring Door County to you. Their website again, doorcountydistillery.com. Click the product in the checklist, type in your zip code, find the retailer nearest to you. Thanks to Hunter, thanks to Joshy for making the trip, thanks to Pablo, Chad, and Laney for making the trip from Madison. We will be back with you Monday beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, and of course the all-new customizable ESPN Wisconsin app. Have a great weekend, make decent decisions. We will talk to you Monday. Peace.